Morning, I'm Casey. This is Keystone Curiosity, where we talk about all things unique to the state of Pennsylvania. Today's episode is going to be about the Liberty Bell Center in Philadelphia. Welcome to Keystone Curiosity, where we explore the life, land, and culture of my beloved home state. Pennsylvania has something to offer everyone, and is living proof that the world is a beautiful place. You just need to take the time to find it. Part of the Independence National Historical Park in the city of Philadelphia, the Liberty Bell Center is located just a few blocks away from Penn's Landing. In 1751, the Pennsylvania Assembly would order the forging of a bell to sound summons over the State House, which would later be known as Independence Hall. The bell was to commemorate the 50th anniversary of William Penn's Charter of Privileges, which served as Pennsylvania's original constitution, and was forged with an inscription from Leviticus chapter 25, verse 10. Proclaim liberty throughout all the land, unto all inhabitants thereof. The State House bell was ordered from Leicester and Pack, a bell founding firm in London, for the price of £150, 13 shillings and 8 pence, which is about $30,000 in modern freedom money. It arrived in Philadelphia in August of 1752. The initial inspection went well, but when the bell was struck to test the sound, the rim immediately cracked. Two local founders, John Stowe, who owned a foundry in Philadelphia, and John Pass, who headed Mount Holly Iron Foundry in the third world country across the Delaware River, had offered to recast the bell at Stowe's foundry on 2nd Street. When the bell was broken down and melted, Pass and Stowe discovered that the metal was too brittle and augmented the metal by about 10% using copper. The bell was ready in March of 1753. The city would schedule a public celebration on March 29th, where they would show and then test the bell before mounting it in the State House steeple. This time, when the bell was struck, it did not break, but the sound it made was described as two coal scuttles banging together. Furiously mocked by the crowd, Pass and Stowe took the bell away and recast it. The work would be finished in June, and was tested in a far less public ceremony. It was deemed satisfactory and hung in the State House by the end of the month. Here, it would sound summons for meetings, events, and special announcements, including the coronation of King George III in 1760, and the assembly of the First Continental Congress in 1774. It is famously remembered to have sounded on the 4th of July in 1776, ringing in the beginning of American independence. But there's actually very little evidence to support this, and most historians actually doubt it due to the fact that the State House steeple had fallen into disrepair. The legend itself actually stems from a fictional story written by George Lippard in 1847. Published in Philadelphia's Saturday Courier under the title The 4th of July, 1776, the story tells of an elderly bellman waiting in the steeple for the word that Congress had declared independence. We are told of the man's inward thoughts, doubting the resolve of Congress, fearing that no such declaration would be made, when suddenly the man's grandson, who had been eavesdropping at the doors of Congress, yells, "Ring, grandfather, ring." Regardless of the validity of this story, there was this guy on the other side of the Atlantic Ocean who didn't really appreciate the outcome either way. In August of 1777, General Sir William Howe landed in Maryland with about 17,000 British troops, intent on capturing the capital of Philadelphia. While General George Washington of the Continental Army did his best to stop or delay the British, Philadelphia prepared for the potential occupation. Military supplies were moved out of the city, Congress relocated to York, and 11 bells were taken down to prevent them from being melted down for munitions. The State House bell was among them. The bells would be sent north under heavy guard, and Howe would occupy the city in October. During this time, the State House bell was hidden here at the Zion's Reformed Church in Allentown. It was hidden under the floorboards for about 9 months until the British evacuated Philadelphia in June of 1778. Repairs were made to the State House steeple, and the bell was rehung in 1785, where it would once again ring out over the city. But things would change slightly in 1799, when the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania would move the state capital to Lancaster. Having no further need for the building, Pennsylvania would end up selling the State House, its grounds, and all of its contents to the city of Philadelphia in 1860. The State House bell would remain on the premises and continue to sound on special occasions. The bell first began to be known as the symbol as it is today in 1835, when the New York Anti-Slavery Society published a story reprimanding Philadelphians for ignoring the words printed on the bell itself. This abolitionist piece was titled The Liberty Bell. From then on, the Liberty Bell would only grow in fame, its inscription becoming a statement for the abolitionist movement. In 1839, William Lloyd Garrison would reprint a pamphlet containing a poem about the Liberty Bell that stated that the bell did not live up to its inscription, as it did not in fact proclaim liberty to all the inhabitants of the land. Importantly, in all of these depictions, nowhere is it shown or mentioned as having a crack. Now, history is not exactly sure when or how the crack formed in the first place, but it was first noticed in 1846, and repair efforts were made to try to fix this. Metalworkers widened the crack to prevent it from spreading, in a process known as stop drilling, where the cracked metal is drilled completely away, restoring the tone of the bell. This can still prominently be seen today, as the crack that most people associate with the bell is not actually a crack at all, but instead the repair. Unfortunately, their efforts were unsuccessful. The Public Ledger, a daily newspaper in Philadelphia, reported that the bell had rung in celebration of Washington's birthday, and that by noon it had been discovered that the ringing had greatly extended the crack. They stated that the old Independence bell now hangs in the great city steeple, irreparably cracked and forever dumb. With the bell no longer usable and its fame still rising, the city would move the Liberty Bell out of the steeple and onto the first floor of Independence Hall. Here it would be displayed on an ornate stand surmounted by an eagle in the Assembly Room, where years ago the Declaration of Independence had been signed. The bell would receive countless visitors in this new home, and later the bell's fame would take it on tour. Millions would see the Liberty Bell as it traveled across the United States, making its way to New Orleans in 1885 and San Francisco in 1915. The miles of travel would take its toll as the bumps and jolts of the railroad expanded the crack and souvenir hunters chipped off pieces from around the rim of the bell. This saw the installation of a spider brace to the interior that keeps the crack from spreading any further. Though the Liberty Bell no longer rings, it is gently tapped on special occasions, such as the 4th of July and Martin Luther King Day. It still rings through legend and inspiration, as the Liberty Bell has been a symbol for many who long to see the United States live up to its inscription, proclaiming liberty throughout all the land, unto all inhabitants thereof. The women's suffrage movement would commission a replica in 1915 called the Justice Bell, which added "Established Justice" to the beginning of the original inscription. This replica had its clapper chained to the side, symbolizing the inability of women to be heard. The bell made tours across the country to ring in support, until it made its way to Independence Hall on August 26, 1920, where it would finally be sounded after the passage of the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote. Organizations across Philadelphia would use it as a symbol as well. Famously, the Philadelphia Phillies adopted an image of the Liberty Bell on a blue baseball diamond in 1992, and feature a light display of the bell in Citizens Bank Park that rings in celebration. The public image of the bell would change in 1996, when on April 1st, the Liberty Bell was purchased by the Taco Bell restaurant chain and renamed to the Taco Liberty Bell. Calls flooded the Independence National Historical Park to express outrage at this decision, and Park Service officials hastily called a press conference. In this conference, the public was reminded of the date, and the National Park Service denied that the bell had ever been sold. This was confirmed by Taco Bell a few hours later. Today, the bell resides in the Liberty Bell Center under the care of the National Park Service. The center is open from 9 to 5, with no tickets and no entry fee required. The center proudly displays the Liberty Bell with a background of Independence Hall, along with a small exhibit detailing the history of the bell and the influence it has had on the shaping of the America we know to this day. Being a part of the National Park Service and a short trip away from multiple other attractions, it's easy to include the Liberty Bell Center in any day trip made to the city. And seeing as it's free admission, there's really no reason that any visitor to Philadelphia should miss this icon of the American identity. That's going to wrap it up for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. As per the usual, if you have any suggestions on where you'd like to see me go next, feel free to leave them in the comments below. In the meantime, hit that like and subscribe so that you can receive notifications about anything else near Philadelphia or all across the state of Pennsylvania itself. But in the meantime, you'll have a good one.